Welcome to Crown Bees episode 6 of the Buzz On. I'm Dave.
And I'm Kelly.
And today we're going to be talking about don't do these things, right?
Oh, please don't do these things.
I'd say mistakes, and you kind of said
epic
mistakes
mistakes that people make with their early start out with their bees.
And it's not just you, it's also us. We've learned a lot of lessons. Okay, so let's get right in. We're going to be talking about cocoons, nesting materials, and houses. So cocoons. One of the biggest mistakes we think people make is you don't harvest it. Springtime, it's like, it's so late. Let me just put things out.
And it's one of those things, everyone gets busy in the fall and you just are crammed for time. And now it's springtime and it's time to put your bees out. So we have a hack for that. This is important. You want to at least open up your materials.
Just open up. So for example, reeds, super easy. I'm just cracking them open. I'm just opening everything up. I'm not really taking much out. If I find Houdini flies, I am going to pull those things out. Everything else doesn't matter. Just toss them in. Okay. If I have tube and inserts,
take out the insert.
Take the inserts. Don't get everything wet. We're just kind of tossing them in. And even wood trays, this is easy. I'm just going to open these things up and I can just scrape everything out, clean them all up. I just got a mound of stuff. Put them into the bag, put them into your cocoon hatchery. Just make sure you don't leave things.
And the whole point of this is you don't want them going back into those dirty, nasty reeds. You don't want them going back into the things that they've already used that have the pests waiting for them. That's the point.
Okay. I've got a really cool hobby called mason bees, and I've got friends across the country that I'm just shipping cocoons in the reed.
And it's so nice. Thank you for sharing all the pests that you have in your yard.
This is how the Houdini fly came from Europe a decade ago. Either these cocoons landed in this unopened reed, landed in either BC or down in the Seattle area, and now we're finding people sharing their Houdini flies to Connecticut, New York, Wisconsin. So
it's so simple, easy peasy. Just open them up and send the cocoons. That's a kindness. That's a wonderful generosity to just send them, share them. That's awesome. Don't send the pests.
Okay. A peer of mine, he was down in the almond industry and he was putting all of these cocoons out for his almond industry. He had hundreds of thousands of cocoons. They were dirty. So he washed them all, which is a nice thing to do. And he put them all out there. And unfortunately, all 100,000, all the bees died because they couldn't cut through the leathery cocoon. At this late stage, the cocoons are all dry and papery, and they're built to be kind of cut through. So no washing at all past January.
Just don't. And that way they're nice and easy for them to munch crunch right on through.
All right. Many of us could have a late spring, and you've got the males and females in a humidity in your fridge, and a few bees open up.
Those males are the first to emerge. Don't panic. It's not a problem. Take a little bit of a cotton ball, maybe some sponge, add some sugar water to it.
50% white table and water.
And then just pop it right in there. Give them something to nosh on while you're waiting for the blooms to open.
And they'll be fine. The males will be, they'll suck off that. You'll find them sitting on top of the sponge, even in the dark. They'll go track that down. So not that big of a deal. They can last weeks like this. Okay. I have in my front yard, I get to take cocoons home because I'm the owner. And so I'm putting hundreds, thousands of cocoons on my front porch years ago. And where the sun hit perfectly, there was a line, everything in the sun, all of those bees didn't emerge. They died. Only been in like an hour. And all those in the shade were fine and emerging. So
sunlight will kill the bees. And that's just because they're in those cocoons. They don't have any way to get rid of that heat. Once they emerge, they're fine because they've got wings and they can get their little air conditioning going on. But definitely in the cocoons, just now.
Okay, so now let's talk about nesting material. In our, we had a episode 4 or something talking about pieces of stuff. Go look at that video. I think there should be a link up here. Go look at that. This will talk about this more in depth. But when you're putting nesting holes outside for your bees to be using, if they're too short, the bee knows where the birds can peck. And so females are typically on the inside part of the reed, but the shorter these things get, the less females you have. So you might only have one female and a lot of males. So 6 inches as a minimum would be the right size length.
Definitely. And be kind. Don't use just the inserts or just the cardboard tubes. Make sure you use both of them, and that way the parasitic wasp isn't going to penetrate both of them and put their eggs on the cocoon.
She will walk right on through like
Boom,
butter.
boom, boom, boom.
If she has just the tube or just the insert, right? Having the right size hole, you'll have a lot of POSs out there that have big old bamboo things. A mason bee will use them, but they spend so much energy on using mud and little time gathering the pollen. So avoid that.
And think about the mud too. If you have mud in your yard, it's not mud that's a clay mud unless you can make a ball out of it and it stays in that ball. That's what this bee does, is she makes these tiny little clay balls and then flies with them. If you can't hold it and it stays, then she can't either, and it just scatters on the way where she's going. It's a mess.
Right. And so on that mud, wet dirt, wet soil in your raised beds is not fine dirt. If I grab just a little bit of this, we open this thing up, here's a little bit of mud. When I scrape this between my fingers, there's no grains of sand. It's just fine talcum powder that the bees. So when you're finding mud, if it's just a flat surface in the morning, it's moist, the bees might be able to use it, but the afternoon it's too dry, they'll fly away. So put a hole in the ground just like this, and we've got mud. You can slap that on there, but the bees will try to mine this mud and fly back to the house. So
and we have the bee box as well. So that's an idea with the capillary action you can use as well. But the concept is make sure it's nice and moist and something she can grab and fly with.
Still on the nesting holes, all of them need to have a back.
Oh yeah.
So whether wood trays, we've got the pest preventer on this back side, or with the bee tubes or the reeds, everything needs to have an end, because those nasty little parasitic wasps will get through there. So that's a mistake. Again, we kind of talked about the POS. If you've got a piece of stuff that's everything's glued in and it's made out of bamboo,
the best thing you can do is thank the person who gave it to you and then take it inside and put it on your wall somewhere. Enjoy it as decor.
If it's full of bees, here's just a lesson learned. Talk about move day. What is this?
This is where we've had someone use it in their yard. It's full of cocoons, and what we can do is put it in the bee guard bag. When the bees emerge, we just release the bees and then close it back up, and they can't get back into nest. So they have to go to the new bee house.
Okay, so I'm positioning my house, and I didn't really think where I put it. Morning sun has the bees open their wings and flying out at dawn, okay? If I put my nesting house way on the north side of a house, they're still going to live 6 weeks, but they're not coming out till maybe noon. So you have their entire ability to do something. South wall is fine, but just make sure in the summer that you've taken that house out of that
the sun. So if it's in the blazing hot afternoon sun, that is a time for you to act and do something about it.
Okay, the last little one that's kind of silly. I was trying to raise bees in the middle of a nursery, and all of the bees in the center of the nursery, they didn't do that well. And I'm wondering why the ones on the outside. So as I went out to talk with them, this was early in the morning, all of a sudden the sprinklers started coming on, and the sprinklers were just hitting the fronts of the face. It's like, okay, look for where you're going to be placing the house. Just try to avoid that.
And it's not just the water that's going to get them, but think about the wind and the breezes and give them some protection from that weather.
So not a long list. These are all things that we've done wrong or heard about. And it's easy. Go be successful. Make mistakes. Learn from your mistakes.
Think like a bee.
Yep. Thanks for watching.